Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our LearnOn webinar series. Today, we're going to be talking about using Flipgrid to connect with students. My name is Ben Smith. I'm the Supervisor of Educational Technology at the Lincoln Intermediate Unit, getting all my technology here ready to go for you guys. I dropped the slide deck into the chat for you, and we should be ready to go. This is a little bit different webinar in that we're going to be focusing on one particular tool. So a lot of what we've done earlier this week has really been associated with, and last week, we were getting you lots of ideas. Here are different tools that you can start to look at. And then we shifted a little bit into content and supports that you can use. And now we're going to focus a little bit more narrowly into specific tools and strategies as you continue to develop your classrooms for online learning. One thing that I do want to mention is that we are, if you looked on our calendar, here's our LIU calendar, you'll notice that the webinar topics stopped for today, that we have some others that are listed, but you'll notice that these are not listed with LIU 12 LearnOn webinars. So we don't have any webinars tomorrow, and then our intermediate unit is closed on Friday and on Monday. And so as you look, you won't see any content. But what is about to happen is that we're going to populate next week with additional content webinars, and they're going to focus more like this webinar on specific topics. So just keep that in mind as you continue to do your work, that we've been listening to you and trying to get those types of topics together. This is our team that's providing the content. It's been a huge group for all of us. And here is my contact information. So if you have any questions as we finish this out, you can certainly check with me. We have disabled chat, the microphone and camera, but I have not disabled chat. It's a smaller group. And I think because we're focused here on Flipgrid, we're going to want to see, I think maybe even have some dialogue and ask you to share out some of your ways that you might be able to use Flipgrid with your students. I would ask you though, because chat is open, there's also a Q&A pod. So if you have a question, please post it to the Q&A pod so that it draws my attention and I can provide the answers to those questions. But if you're providing some resources or information, you can drop that into the chat. If you want to unmute and talk, you can raise your hand and use your microphone. And don't forget to fill out the Act 48 credit link if you want to receive that for this webinar. We've made the changes to these changing expectations for online learning, and we've talked about this all week, that most schools in our area are using continuity of education, and that means that they're either choosing planned instruction or enrichment and review. And as this tends to go on longer, we're going to see a lot more schools moving towards planned instruction. And so we're looking for the right tools to help us with that type of work. So we have the disclaimer at the bottom, and maybe that doesn't apply here exactly, but I'm going to show you how to use Flipgrid. And I want to show you, you'll see me jump in and out of my screen. I'm going to show it to you from the computer, from the behind the scenes, from the teacher side, from the student side. I want to try and show you from my phone as well. So we're going to do different things here as we work along. But what I wanted to mention is that the outcome here is to be able to know how to use Flipgrid. If you need more supports, we're going to try and show that to you as we go along here today. Where do you get those supports? But reach out to your tech team, reach out to your coaches. If you don't have one, please reach out to us with those types of questions. So let's talk a little bit about Flipgrid Supports. And the first thing I want to do is just jump out to our LearnOn site again. And if I go out to our LearnOn site, you'll see under the 4 educators, you could always go to free online tools, but if you actually click the little down arrow here, you will be able to choose Flipgrid. And if you choose Flipgrid, that's where you can get some of these supports. So you'll see there's a video on getting started with Flipgrid, getting started with students. So this is perfect for you to share out to your students to let them know how to use Flipgrid. And then other places that you can find resources and information and remember to find the Disco library, and we'll talk about that as we go along here as well today. So the slide deck is actually more for a reference for you as you think about how to get started with Flipgrid. So the one thing that I'll point out is that if you want to go, if you go over to Flipgrid, and so here I am, I'm on the main site, and you'll see that they have an educator login and an educator sign up. If you click on the educator sign up, I would encourage you to use Google as your way to sign up for that. If you're a student, you don't need an account. And that's one of the things I really like about Flipgrid, is that when I'm trying to provide it out to my students, I don't have to necessarily worry about them making sure that they have created an account. All I need to really worry about is whether I have an account. So I would hit sign up with Google, and then I would sign in. So as an educator, I already have a login. So I click, and now I'm in my login. I'm going to go through each of these pieces up here as we talk about Flipgrid, and we work our way through the different sources that are out there. But I'm going to start by just looking under here, and you can go into your profile, and you can upload a photo if you want. And so that can be a great way to work with things. So, you know, you can just click and upgrade that photo. You can also build your own community. So, you know, if you're starting to work with others that are in your school, the community builder can be a great place to go, and you can just copy that link and get that information. And so, and you can see then you fill this out and like what age group you're using and things like that, put in a bio. So I'm going to go back out to, I'll start where my activity is. And so this is a dashboard that tells you the information that you need to know. So if you're using this with students, and again, this is a professional account, so so I've created really for the work that we're doing here. But if you see, you know, like I have 2 grids, I have 3 topics, I have 14 total videos in here, and then I'll see videos this week, and I can also see how many people are watching my videos. So this will give you a sense of how much your students are using it. So as you think about that, this is a great way to just sort of look at the dashboard. They do have achievements in recent videos that you can look at as well here. One of the other things I do like to do, I'll connect my Twitter account, and then I'll be able to share out on Twitter the things that I'm doing for Flipgrid. All right, so this gives you a place where you can sort of get a picture of what's happening. I'm going to jump over to my grids. So again, these topics at the top are really the places that you want to be. And so I have, I've created 2 grids so far. Now, how would I use a grid? I would probably set up a grid per classroom, because a grid has topics that can be included within there. So if I said, okay, I want to do a new grid, I'm going to type in my LearnOn Flipgrid. So you can see you start out by naming your grid, and then you can choose how you want to have people work with your particular grid. So for most of you, I would say have students join with their Microsoft or Google School email. So if you have either an O365 or a Gmail address for your students, that's a great way to do it. And then by doing that, when I click on that, what it means is that only those students who are connected there will be able to get access. If you want to, if you don't have that, then you can create a list of student IDs, and then those students would need those IDs to get into into your Flipgrid. And then finally, what I typically do for my students, which are educators like yourselves, is I will make it public. And so by doing this, you'll see that it's out there in the world. The other information that you get is here is your Flip code, and you'll notice it says available. And what I can do is I can actually type in LearnOn not available. So maybe I want to do LIU LearnOn, and that one is available. And so I'm going to use that as my code for that. So even though you get a generic code, you can actually create your own code there. And then when you hit next, you'll see that you can require a password, okay? And so, and I see Laura gave us a great question here. I'm just gonna jump back for a moment because it's perfectly placed. So if you create it so that is on school email, I'm just gonna hit next for a moment. I'll go back. What you'll see is that only people with the ending part that is similar to you will be able to see that Flipgrid. So if you don't want it to be public, you can do that. And by choosing one of these two options, so if I choose student ID and I go to next, what you'll see is I would have to upload the student ID. Then only people who can see the Flipgrid and participate in the Flipgrid are going to be the ones that have those codes in it, okay? So hopefully that helps with that question. But I am going to make mine be public. And when I do that, I can see the notes, right? Anyone with the Flipgrid can join and view videos on the Flipgrid, and I can password protect it if I want. So like I just click that on and enter a password, and then only those that have the password here. But I'm gonna leave my Flipgrid open, but I recognize that in a school setting, and again, I'm gonna go back all the way out here. If I go all the way back, you're probably gonna wanna use school email. That's what I would do as a teacher. So once I hit next, my grid's ready. So it's that quick. And you'll see that it has integration. So I can embed this. So if you have an LMS like Schoology or Canvas, you can use that. You can share out to Microsoft Teams. You can share out to Google Classroom, and you can share out on Remind. Now, we talked about all of these. Charlie Travato did a great webinar yesterday on Google Classroom. So if you're looking to set that up, we did talk about earlier this week about Remind in one of our workshops. So Remind, if you're not familiar, is a texting solution where you don't have to worry about students seeing your phone number. So you can send texts out to students at all age levels. So these are great ways to share it out. And then I'm just gonna go to my grid. Okay, so here's my grid. So when I started out and I come to my grid, the first thing you'll see is there is a say hello to Flipgrid that is automatically, and you'll see it's a pinned topic. So it's gonna be at the top of the grid. Let's suppose that I wanted to create a new topic. And so you can create as many, a number of topics here. So I'm gonna add a new topic, and this is I'm gonna cancel for a moment because I wanna go back and just show you. So adding a new topic is the way you separate this out. So remember the organization. If I have, for me, if I were trying to organize this, I would have a class grid. Okay, so each of my classes would have their own grid, and then within those grids, I would have separate topics. So that's the organizational structure that you'll see with Flipgrid. So I created the LearnOn Flipgrid. This would be like my period 1 class, or if I'm an elementary teacher, maybe this is my ELA class. And so now that I've gone in here, I'm gonna have a list of topics. So as I want to address this, I can hit add topic, and now let's see. How will you use? I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna go using Flipgrid. All right. Then I'm gonna put a prompt there. So I put my prompt in there, and then I can set the recording time. Now I love this because brevity can be really important for students to go through. I'd love to set it to 1 minute. I use this as we'll talk a little bit about ways that we can use this. I use this to help engage my students, but I want them to be succinct. So I will tell them, tell me what you did, what you found out, how you know what you found out in 1 minute or less. And then there's a timer for them. So as you'll see in a few moments, those students are going to go through and they're going to actually find that they need to be within a minute. Now, here's another interesting thing that you can put in in addition to the prompt, I can upload all of these different types of pieces. So I could put in a video. I could put in a Kahoot. So think about like asking your students for a Kahoot and then ask them to reflect on how they did at the end of that. I could put in a Newsella article. And we talked about Newsella when we did ELA, social studies and science content pieces. You can add a video from YouTube or from Vimeo, or record or upload your own videos. So there are all these types of things that you can do. Simply adding an emoji. So like if I'm really happy, you know, that I got this going, right, I can add that to help them sort of focus in on whatever their strategy is. So I'll leave that little emoji in there for us, and then I'm going to hit create topic. All right, so for the create topic, once the topic is ready, you'll see again that I have a code. I have a QR code, which I'll show you why that's important in a moment. And then I have all these ways I can share it out. So if I've created this topic, I would then push this out to my Google Classroom, and then I'm all set. So that's all you really need to do. And in fact, I could say, well, I'm going to record a response here. So I'm going to do that right now to be able to share that with my students. So if I hit record response, this is the same window that students are going to get. And all they need to do is click the little record button, and then they can use these pictures and pieces if they want. Gives a countdown. Hi, this Flipgrid is to show you how other people are using Flipgrid. So I hope that everybody will record their thoughts and they will take a look. What I want you to notice is that there's a little countdown clock going right here, so that the students can use this. I can have them show the topic if they want. Okay, I can also add a sticky note if I wanted to add information in there. And then I can also use all these pieces. So I could say, I want this guy and I want him over here, okay? And I want to draw on here. I got 17 seconds left. And I can put text in, I can put filters on, all those things. I'll hit pause, okay. So now I've recorded my Flipgrid, and if I hit next, I can actually edit it. So I can go through and edit this video, and it would play. I could add more, but if I'm done, right, I can say, okay, I'm ready to go, and go back. And I'm going to exit out of that because I don't want to share all of those pieces, but then I would have my video appear here. So for those of you that are able to, if you have your phones available and you want to quickly try and grab Flipgrid, you can go to this code, which I'm going to drop into the chat, and you can post that information there. And we'll see if we have any adventurous folks here in the next 10 minutes who will record while I'm talking a 1-minute video. You might even do a little selfie and hold it in the background and show that you're watching the webinar, and talk just for a moment about how you're going to use Flipgrid. So let me jump back out, and I'm back out at the grid view, and what you'll see is that you have the LearnOn Flipgrid. This was the one we were using for explaining. This is one that we used back in November with some of our career work we were doing. And I'm going to jump into this so you get a view of what will come up with the students. And so you can see all these were different flips that people did. So they were creating their own Flipgrid. And if I jump into any one particular one, you'll get a sense of seeing what was happening there. And then as the teacher, I can use a rubric to score the idea and to score their performance, and I can put comments on there for them. And then I can get my students their feedback. So you can see it says students can visit myflipgrid.com to view the feedback, and you can also email that feedback to them. So remember, if they signed in with their Gmail address, if I email them feedback, it's going to go back to them. If they don't have access or they're not really looking at their Gmail, I can copy the feedback link and then I can send it to the students so they are the ones who get the feedback for them. I can also go in and edit. These are things that will be seen by all students. And so you can see I can edit that. I could also change, like, so in this case, you can see it's 2 people and I think it's Bonnie and Ott. And so like I could actually make changes to all this information. So I can go through and use that. And then if I wanted to share it out, I can do that. So the question was, do you find that we had a question come in that says, do you find that using this, you no longer use Google Classroom, or do you use in conjunction? I would use it in conjunction with Google Classroom, because what you'll see is I can share any of these pieces out to Google Classroom. And so Google Classroom will probably be the hub where students will go, but the activity that they do will come out to Flipgrid. So hopefully that answers your question. So I wanted to be able to show you how you can go and leave feedback. And of course you can also star them. You can use put it into a Spark video. You can add to Mixtapes, which I'll show you in a moment. So as you get these, you can provide the feedback right here within this activity. And so I find it to be incredibly valuable for them. And you can also start to do lots of different things. So like if you want to edit a response, you can, or hide it from everybody. So, you know, if you have one, you're like, I don't think I want everybody to see that, you can hide that one. You can move them, you can duplicate them. You can also download the video. And so let's suppose that somebody does something that is inappropriate. I would download that video and maintain it. Or if I'm worried, you know, I just want to be able to have it to share out to students. Or if you have students that aren't online anymore and you want to do it, there are a lot of ways that you can make use of that. So you can go through and work with each of these videos. I want to go back and take a look at a couple of these quick things before I show you the student view. Okay, so we had a question come in and it says, I understand the difference between a grid and a topic. What is the difference between when students create a Flipgrid for a grid or a topic? So students will always be responding to a topic. If they want to see the whole grid, so from the student view, and I'll show that in a few moments, but from the student view, if I share out the grid, so if I share this link here, where it says LIU LearnOn, what'll happen is they'll see all the topics and then they can pick the topics that they want to reply to. So if you think about like, okay, I have the problem of the day, and I want students to reply to the problem of the day or the thought of the day, then you would have like a sequence of days, and the students might need to come in and choose which day they're working on. If, on the other hand, I go into a particular topic, then when I share this one out, this will share just to that topic that they're replying to. So I probably would have a series of topics, and I think in this situation, I would want my students to try and record each day. Give me a summary of what you learned today. You know, what's the check-in, so that I can go back and look at that and see where they are. And I would give them some specific prompts and questions and give them, you know, a minute, but it really should take them 2 minutes, 1 minute to navigate to it and 1 minute to record and post. And so when you think about the limited amount of time we have, I can get a lot of information from students. I might even say to them, please, you know, tell me what you learned today. What questions did you have? Things like that, so that I can go through on my time and work with this while we know we're limiting the amount of time for students. All right, so very quickly, I want to go through each of these pieces up here. So Mixtapes, Mixtapes allow you to pull in different content from sources and put it together. So if you're old like me, you remember making those mixtapes with an actual cassette recorder. Well, that's kind of what you're doing here. And so what you can do is when you go into Mixtape actions, right, you can edit it, but I'm gonna go in here and make sure that it's live. Now I want to show you, I put the upper atoms group in here. I'm going to go back to my Flipgrid. I'm going to go back to where I had responses. And let's suppose I want to take this Gettysburg one. One of the choices is I can add it to Mixtapes. So when I choose add it to Mixtapes, I only have one, but if you had more than one, you could choose those and add them in. Okay, so now I'm going to go back up to Mixtapes, and you'll see I now have 2 videos there. So so the Flipgrid mixtape allows me to pull things together. So if I get great responses, or if I have a Q&A Flipgrid, so I have a place where students can just ask questions. Maybe I'll pull in the best questions right to this mixtape, and then that'll be something that I can share out again to all of my students. Another question, or another place you can go, is to GridPals. This will allow you to see, connect with educators. You can see how many people across the U.S. are using Flipgrid. If we wait and see the Pennsylvania populate in, these are all those types of Flipgrids. You can see there's like more than 20,000 of them that are here, and you can go and look and see. And so you can follow educators in classrooms who allow them to be active, so educators can connect with me. So these are folks that will allow you to connect. And so these are great places. Look at the pre-K ones. I know we get a lot of questions about what do we do with our littles. Well, here's another opportunity for you to be able to do that. So I'm going to jump over to Disco Library. Disco Library allows you to create a template of a topic. So although I'd be definitely tempted to get the cat that seems to be listening to the music, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here a little bit, and the one that I really like, I'm going to start with Flocabulary. So it's a great tool. So Flocabulary has these starters, and so I could be like, oh, area and perimeter. Well, if I'm a math teacher, and you can see, I'm going to say, okay, I want to use that one, and now I can choose. Well, I want to put that into the LearnOn Flipgrid, and so when I hit add, it's going to add that topic. Now, one of the things to notice is they have accompanying activities that go with the video, so you can click and go out there. Now, Flocabulary is a pay-for freemium service. You'll see they have a light plan, but I'm just going to add this in. And what you'll see is it already has, so watch the attached vocabulary video and discuss what you learned about it. And so it added in the video, and I'm going to update the topic. And so now this becomes another one of my grids. So when I go onto the LearnOn Flipgrid, now you'll see I have an area and perimeter. So the Disco Library provides you with opportunities to be able to use that. The question is, do you need a subscription to Flocabulary? So I believe you want to check those videos, but I believe that the videos they have listed in there are under their light plan, which is a free plan. They also have a free edition, at least during the pandemic that's going on, so you can think about how you would work through that part of it. But the Disco Library provides those great opportunities for you to bring content in. Here's one on the National World War II Museum. Hacking STEM is another one. So as you start to look for topics and things that you're looking for, there are some that are already publicized for you, and you can search once you've made a choice down there by topic and ability. So don't miss out on the Disco Library. And then the shorts, these are ways that you can just quickly record a video if you want to share it out. So thinking about, I think I had mentioned, I like to tell jokes. That would be one of those things. And so I might do the joke of the day for my students, or the thought of the day, or here's what I'm thinking about. I know some educators are starting to share out via lots of different ways what they're thinking about. And so this is a way that you can just quickly record a short video. All right, so what I want to do is I want to quickly show you how to, I'm going to stop my share for a moment, and I want to show you how to go into the Flipgrid and go through some other pieces. So let me do that really quickly here by sharing my screen again, but this time I'm going to choose this screen. And so now I'm logged into a student account. So if I click over here, what you'll see is my account says googleclass@iu12gmail.org. So this is a student account. And so if I'm a student, okay, I can just go down here and enter my flip code in. So so if I type in a flip code, so now just pause for a moment here as I pull up the flip code to be able to share out. It is, looks like it is DB5D2CAO. And hopefully I got that right. And it's going to bring me into the LearnOn Flipgrid. And by the way, 3 of you have already put in Flipgrid responses, so I'll be able to show that. So remember that was the prompt, and then you can see the little person in there, and you know the prompt here. It'll read the prompt to you if you need to, and then, hey, thanks folks for sharing your Flipgrids, okay? And so as a student, I would go in and see these Flipgrids, okay? So it's great to see you guys. I really appreciate you sharing with us. And so now I need to log in as a student. Remember, I'm in my student mode. And so it's going to ask me to use this account. Login is successful, and now I'm able to record a video. And what you saw from those folks, and one of the things I want to just share with you is that there's a whiteboard. And so if I click on here and I do a whiteboard, I could actually record. So if I click record, I could do my math problem, or I could post that out. So even though I'm going through, right, I can get my video to show up, okay? And I'll be able to submit my selfie. I'll take my picture. Don't close the window. And then when I'm ready, I'll just say, and then I can put in a title or not and hit submit, and boom, it's done. And so I'm going to stop that share for a moment. Go back over to here and just show you real quick that if I refresh that page, what you'll see is now I have 6 responses. So there's my whiteboard one and all the others that you can see in there. Okay, so that quickly, you know, we've been on here for about 30 minutes or so. That quickly, we're able to see the whiteboard come up. Now, I wanted to show you real quick one more thing, which is the use of the phone. So bear with me for a moment, and again, keep populating those questions. We'll get to them in just a moment. So I'm going to try this. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm mirroring my iPhone. So you should be able to see what I see on my iPhone. And if I drop out of this, I'm already in the Flipgrid app. And so being in the Flipgrid app, the nice thing is that, that because I have already created the Flipgrid, you'll notice it says scan Flipgrid QR code. Well, for students, this might be a great way for you to actually share that information with students. And so I'm going to go back into that exact same Flipgrid, and on my camera, I'm going to call up the QR code. So I'm going to try not to make anybody seasick, but you'll see I have my Flipgrid. And then by using the QR code, it automatically took me over to that. And then I'm ready to go. And again, I can see the responses, and I can hit plus, and I can log in with my Google account. And of course, it's going to go through. Now, I won't. There we go. Perfect. And so now I have this, but I'm going to flip it over to the whiteboard. And this is why, because it is much easier to write on here than it is to write on my computer with my mouse. And so by using the phone, it allows me to really share that information out very quickly with students. And so that's why I wanted to show you that on the phone, it's much, much easier for students to do. And it still has the recording timeshare there. All right, so so I'm going to jump back into our slide deck real quick. And I know that we have some questions that have come in, so I'm going to take the few minutes that we have left to answer the questions. One of the questions is it still required a Google login? And is there a way to do it without that login? There is a way to do it without the login. So if I go back up to my grids, if I add a new grid, I want to remind you, you can do it with a student ID. And if I do it with a student ID, so if you don't have a Google account, what I would do is I would click on student ID rather than school email, click next. Oops, I need to give it a title here. And then if I click next, what will happen is I need to upload a file and I need to put in their first name, last name, and student ID. Remember that this is sort of personally identifiable information. For the student ID, I would probably make one up for students rather than using something that my students already have. And then I could just type it in. So, you know, Joe Smith, my brother here, and ID is 002. You know, whatever it might be, and then I could use that without students making an account, and then students will have to have that list, and they will have their own code once the entire list is done, and then you can work through that. So, can you make a video and then add the whiteboard with it? You can. You can't. I don't think you can make it and then add the whiteboard, but what you can do is you can add the whiteboard in the middle of the video. So if you made like a 1.5-minute video. One of the tools, you know, the tool for the whiteboard, you can actually start recording and then hit the whiteboard tool in the middle so that you can have students do that and then come back. And then we had another question that came in, is the QR code something that can be embedded also? The QR code can be embedded, so you can download that. So if I go here and I click on QR code, right, I can just right click to copy it and then right copy that image, and then I can paste that wherever I might want. Okay. Tammy had a question, can you talk while on a whiteboard? Yes, absolutely. It'll record your voice the whole time. If you make it public, does it have a password that they have to put in to access? So the password, if you make it public, the password protects it from people entering videos. So if you think about, like, I don't want just anybody entering a video on here. I trust you guys for my videos, but I don't want, you know, I don't want something inappropriate. And so, quite honestly, for students, I wouldn't make it public. But if I were making it public, then I would definitely have a password that the students would need to know to get into that account. I know we're just we're really running up against the time here today, so I'm going to jump back over and just point out that as I drop out of here, in the slide deck, which will be uploaded, it just has a few things to remind you as I flip through of things that you might have seen. So that's all you need from the slide deck to remind you to go to GridPals and things like that. There is one sort of Easter egg, if you will, in here, which is Flipgrid AR would be a place for you to play around with it, and you'll notice it's linked out to the augmented reality site. So if you want to go and take a look at it, you can do that. Oops, I'm going to end by thinking about, here are some uses. So daily thought, student instructions, getting your face out there. Those are ways that teachers could use it, but for students, they could reflect on it. They could do formative assessment or checks for understanding, and they can do summarizers. So we have a lot of that type of content that is out there for you. So when you take away from this webinar is hopefully how easy Flipgrid is to use, but also some ways that you can use it. And I would encourage you to post, you know, or to think about how you're using the Flipgrid for some of your work. The only other thing that I saw in there is I do want to remind you guys quickly to please fill out the evaluation. We're using that information to help us out, and also to also fill out the Act 48, and so I'll drop that into the chat as well. You will need to enable your microphone and your pop-up, and if you're having problems with that, contact your tech folks or send us an email. There are some things that you can do, but I don't know that we have the time right here to actually talk about about what to do with that. So with that, I'm going to thank you guys for your attendance today. Hopefully you got some good information out on how to use Flipgrid, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinars. And again, check out that calendar because it's going to be updated today for topics for next week.